The Jewish Problem, Part 2. If you remember, last week we talked about DK defining the problem. What is the problem of the Jews? And he was very clear that the problem of the Jews was also that of humanity. And then we traced the origin of that problem way back when the sun was in Gemini in the later Lemurian times. And today we will understand a little bit more by looking closely at the rays of the Jews. All is manifested energy. So please, friends, consider this Jewish problem in terms of energy. So take the personal out of it and just focus on that problem in terms of energy. DK does tell us that it is a statement of fact that the world of the occultist or the disciple is the world of energy, of forces, of their origin, their point of impact, and the methods of their assimilation and transference or elimination. It's all about energy. So this world of energy in which he, the occultist or the disciple, lives and moves and has his being is the living, organized vehicle of manifestation of the planetary logos. Through it, energies are circulating all the time and are in constant movement, being directed and controlled by the head center of the planetary logos. They create great vortices of force or major points of tension throughout his body of manifestation. The spiritual hierarchy of our planet is such a vortex. Humanity itself is another, and one which is today in a condition of almost violent activity, owing to its becoming a focus of divine attention. So let's heed the advice from DK that our major task as aspirants is to cultivate the higher sensitivity, to render ourselves so pure and selfless that our minds remain undisturbed by the happenings in the three worlds. To seek that attentive spiritual sense which will enable us to be impressed and then to interpret correctly the impressions received. So now then, let's move on to the Jews, or the problem of the Jews. So a brief recap from part 1. If you will remember that the third ray governed that system and also governs the Jewish race. If you bear in mind that that system, the first solar system, was occupied with the divine aspects of matter only and with external conditions, and that the Jews were the highest product of that first solar system. So then we can come to an understanding of the Jew, his separateness, his desire for racial purity, and his interest in that which is commercial and tangible. The Jew down the ages has insisted upon being separated from all other races. But he brought over from that previous system the knowledge which was necessary then, but obsolete now, that his race was the chosen people. So his race, the personality ray, which is the material form ray of the Jewish people, is the third ray. Their egoic or soul ray is the first. Their astrological sign or their sun sign is Capricorn, which transmits ray 1, ray 3, ray 5, and ray 7. You see how they're all hard lines. Personality ray, third ray. Egoic ray, first ray. All hard lines. But with Virgo rising as ascendant, ray 2 and ray 6. So Mercury and Virgo play a prominent part in their destiny. And as we know, Mercury is the exoteric ruler of Virgo and Gemini. And the sun was in Gemini in the later Lemurian times. And we also note that both Virgo and Capricorn are earth signs. So it is in the sign of the goat, which seeks its sustenance in the most rocky and arid of the world's places, and it's therefore related, men, to the mineral kingdom. It is also the sign of the crocodile, which lives half in the water and half on dry land. It is spiritually the sign of the unicorn, which is the fighting and triumphant creature of the ancient myths. So here we can see already the hope in that sign, Capricorn, the sun sign Capricorn of the Jews. Under the symbolism of the above creatures, this sign gives us a rather complete picture of man with his feet upon the earth, yet running free and climbing to the heights of worldly ambition or spiritual aspiration in search of what he realizes at any particular time to be his major need. And as the goat, he is man, the earthly, human, greedy seeker after the satisfaction of desire, or man, the equally selfish aspirant hunting for the satisfaction of his aspiration. So this sign, Capricorn, portrays to us man, an ambitious animal in two senses of the word. In the early stages upon the mutable cross, man, the blend of desire, water, and the animal nature, earth. And upon the reversed wheel, man, the blend of soul and form. But it also gives us the picture of the triumphant initiate, the unicorn of God, the symbol of the unicorn with its one horn outthrust like a single spear upon his brow, instead of the two horns of the scavenging goat. And we will also note that the name of our fourth human hierarchy is the initiates. So here's our future, the future not only of the Jews here, but being symbolically humanity, representing humanity, this is what our name is, the initiate. Capricorn, in Capricorn, we have the triumph of matter. It reaches its densest and most concrete expression. But this triumph is followed by that of spirit. So there is full expression of the earthly nature in Capricorn, but also immense spiritual possibilities. We also note that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and this is significantly beautiful and instructive, DK tells us, because Mars is the god of war, the producer of conflicts, and in this earthly sign of Capricorn, Mars triumphs in the early stages of the evolution of the fourth creative hierarchy and in the life history of the undeveloped and average man. Materialism, the fight for the satisfaction of personal ambitions, and the conflict with the higher spiritual tendencies goes steadily forward. And this most material of all signs, that is Capricorn, is the battleground of the old established order and habits and the new and higher inclinations and tendencies. Virgo, if you remember, is the ascendant of the Jewish people. But Virgo is also the focal point for the expression of the third aspect, that of intelligence. And in that sign, Virgo, the highest function of matter is symbolized. Virgo is therefore the cosmic mother because she represents cosmically the negative pole to positive spirit. She is the receptive agent where the father aspect is concerned. In a previous solar system, this matter aspect was the supreme controlling factor. Just as in this solar system, it is the soul or the Christ principle which is of paramount importance. So Virgo is, from certain angles, quite the oldest of all the signs. And this is a statement DK tells us he is quite unable to prove to us. We just have to trust him. The life of the third divine aspect played then upon the ocean of quiescent matter and prepared that substance over untold eons for its work in this solar system. So it is in this system that the child Christ, the expression of the divine consciousness and the result of the relationship of Father Spirit and Mother Matter, must be brought to the birth. So we can see the destiny then of the Jewish people is to express the cosmic mother, to express the Christ within which, or the love within which matter guards and protects. As a consequence of this most ancient activity, the same force was present at the time of individualization in this solar system. For it is in this system, and primarily upon our planet Earth, that the major results of that early activity have made themselves felt. Two of our planets, the Earth, non-sacred, and Uranus, sacred, are directly the product of this third ray activity coming from Alcyone, impregnating the substance of the universe with a quality of mind. So this is very important for us to remember, that Uranus and the Earth are directly the product of this third ray activity. And as you know, the personality of our planetary logos is on the third ray. I would also ask you, he said, to link this thought with the teaching that through the divine center of intelligent activity, which we call humanity, the fourth kingdom in nature will eventually act as the mediating principle to all the three lower kingdoms. So humanity is the divine messenger to the world of form. So it is essentially Mercury bringing light and life to other divine manifestations, and of this all divine world saviors are the eternal symbols. So this is really the destiny of the Jewish people, being the divine messenger, because they were the highest and the most developed group in Lemurian times. So we can see an emphasis of Ray 3 through Capricorn, the sun sign, and through Virgo, the soul sign, two earth signs, highlighting materiality, and through its third ray personality, accentuated by the fact that the Jews represent the energy and the life of the previous solar system, which was governed by Ray 3, and that the Jews were the highest product of that system. So DK identified the Jewish problem symbolically to that of humanity, who is the divine messenger to the world of form. They were entrusted with a symbolic mission of holding the divine nature of mankind as a whole, and of leading humanity in its essential role of divine world saviors. And Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, its soul sign, and Gemini, which ruled the later Lemurian times when the Jews were the most advanced disciples at the time, Mercury figures prominently in the destiny of the Jews. Through the ruler Mercury, they, as a symbol of humanity, are meant to bring light and life to other divine manifestations. The egoic ray of the Jewish people is the first ray of will and power. So here we have a double influence of ray 1, as Capricorn transmits ray 1 of will and power. Capricorn is an earth sign, and because the third and the fifth ray work preeminently through this sign, embodying the third major aspect of divinity, active intelligence, plus that of its subsidiary power, the fifth ray of mind. So Capricorn, this constellation stands for the influence which will carry the will of Shambhala to hierarchy and or to the world initiates, giving to them that dynamic and enterprising spirit which will enable them to carry forward to completion the will of God on earth. So a double whammy of ray 1. Not only the egoic ray is on the first ray, but Capricorn transmits also ray 1 of love, of will and power. In the Old Testament, Moses, the lawgiver, went up to the Mount of God, Mount Sinai, and there received the 10 Commandments. This is the expression of divine law as adapted for humanity and as needed in the projection of those forces which will destroy, purify, and reorganize. But usually, unfortunately, first-ray personalities respond to Shambhala energy, but distort it when it's not controlled by the soul. And that's the case usually at the beginning. The true first-ray personality who works in response to this Shambhala influence will have the ultimate good of the group deeply enshrined in his consciousness and heart. He will think in terms of the whole, not in terms of the part. This may lead at times to ruthlessness and cruelty if the personality of the individual is not yet controlled by soul impulse. And such cases are frequently to be seen not only in individuals, but as well as nations. And Dike tells us that an instance of this can be noted in the history of the Jews as found in the Old Testament. When the first ray was in control and passing through one of its rare cycles of activity, we read that they butchered and slaughtered all their enemies, men, women, and children, putting them to the sword. And the sword is ever the symbol of the first ray force, just as the pen is of the second ray influence. So let's have a look at the first ray soul method of appropriation when incarnating. And that will say a lot about the Jewish race. Souls on this ray are spoken of occultly as crashing their way into incarnation. They appropriate dynamically that which they require. They brook no hindrance in the satisfaction of their desires. They stand alone in a proud isolation, glorying in their strength and their ruthlessness. Souls of this ray, as they come into incarnation through desire, grasp. This expresses the nature of the force demonstration employed. There is a measure of violence in their technique. They eventually take the kingdom of heaven by force. These qualities have to be transmuted into that intelligent use of power, which makes them powerful factors in the plan and magnetic centers of force, gathering workers and forces around them. And here are some of the characteristics of the personality distorting the first ray of the soul. Such personalities, integrated personalities, are frequently ruthless at first, selfish, ambitious, self-centered, cruel, one-pointed, implacable, undeviating, aware of implications, of significances, and of the results of actions, but at the same time, unalterable and undeviating, moving forward to their purposes. They destroy and tear down in order to rise to greater heights upon the ruin they have wrought. They do thus rise. They trample on other men and upon the destinies of the little people. They integrate their surroundings into an instrument for their will and move relentlessly forward upon their own occasions. This type of man will be found expressing these qualities in all walks of life and spheres of action, and is a destroying force in his home, business, and in the nation. And whatever is being said about individuals applies also to nations. So here we can see some of the characteristics of what were described as those of the Jewish people. So today, the Jewish people are engineering trouble, DK tells us. And it is interesting to note that the main contention in the past of Poland, lately of the Irish, and today of the Jews is territory, thus evidencing a most distorted sense of values. The Jews were also, during the years immediately following the war, under the control of a glamour imposed by Zionist dictators, who were attempting, somewhat unsuccessfully, to be to the Jewish people what Stalin and his group and Hitler and his gang have been to their people. They are claiming a land to which they have no possible right and which the Jews have ignored for 2,000 years. Their attitude is perhaps the culminating, aggressive action of the age and marks a climaxing point. It has produced a serious world tension, but out of this, good may come and a point of emergence for mankind be reached. And on the other hand, we have the race 6 of the Muslim faith. DK tells us that 3 major world religions, the Christian, the Hindu, and the Buddhist, will be intimately related, whilst the Muslim faith will be found to be linked to the Christian faith because it embodies the work of Master Jesus as he overshadowed one of his senior disciples, a very advanced initiate, Muhammad. We also note that Master Jesus is the 6th ray Chohan. He was the one who lent his body to be overshadowed by the Christ 2,000 years ago. Mohammedanism, which numbers so large a following, is also under the 6th ray influence. But it is not a great root religion, being a hybrid offshoot of Christianity with a tinge of Judaism. The Muslim faith is, like the Christian, a positive presentation of truth, though very materialistic. Both these faiths have been militant and political in their activities. So no wonder they are at loggerheads. And we know that the sixth astral plane is ruled by the red planet Mars. Will the world Hercules lift this problem up into heaven and elevate the hydra of passion and hate, of greed and aggression, of selfishness and ambition up into the region of the soul? Or will it carry the whole matter down onto the physical plane with the inevitable corollary of world disaster, world war, and death? Such are the problems with which the guiding hierarchy is faced. And hierarchy will not interfere because it will offset the spiritual law of free will. So that's why hierarchy Christ doesn't just come down and say, okay, enough is enough. Let's do this. We have to work out the problem ourselves and come to our own conclusions and work at it intelligently. The planetary solar plexus. Again, a very important point. We are told that the fourth type of force responsible for the state of world affairs at this time is that of the Jews. They, as a whole, constitute the solar plexus of the planetary logos. Their problem is being used today to focus, qualify, and condition the world feeling nature and the emotional reactions of the sensitive nature of humanity and of the planetary logos. Let's not forget that the personality of the third ray personality of our planetary logos is not yet perfect. Hence the fact that his body of manifestation, which is the planet Earth, is not reckoned as being one of the sacred planets. Through the Jewish people throughout the world, feeling sympathetic or antagonistic, expressive of love or conditioned by hate, is being gathered to a focus in the planetary solar plexus center, preparatory to a great permanent change. Let's read this paragraph again, because that's very important. It is very revealing. Through the Jewish people throughout the world, feeling, whether it's sympathetic or antagonistic, whether it's expressive of love or conditioned by hate, is being gathered to a focus in the planetary solar plexus center, preparatory to a great permanent change. Here's the tabulation that DK gave us in the externalization of hierarchy. As we can see, the Jewish force is only a temporary force because they will evolve. They will live up to their karma and they will live up to their soul, the Virgoan soul. but nevertheless, it produces temporary separation because they embody that quality of separativeness. The Jews are instruments in the working out of the plan for the production of certain syntheses and to bring humanity to certain realizations and decisions. If you remember from our study of the solar plexus, the solar plexus is a great clearinghouse for all energies below the diaphragm. It is the recipient of all emotional reactions and of desire impulses and energies. And because humanity is today becoming active in a group sense and is more inclusive than ever before in human history, the situation is of acute and extreme difficulty. So mankind, through the individual and also through the collective solar plexus, is being subjected to almost unendurable pressure. Now, here's the key sentence. Such are the tests of initiation. And we'll see this in a minute. The solar plexus, if you remember from our studies, is the most separative of all the centers, except the ajna center in the case of the man on the left-hand path, because it stands at the midway point between the throat and the heart and above the diaphragm and the sacral and the base below the diaphragm. If you remember, it is also a synthetic center. It gathers up all these forces below and distributes them to their corresponding higher center. So as the plowman turns the soil of his field and harrows it, and so brings that which is underneath to eventual fruition, so a similar process is taking place in the world today. And all is preparatory for the sowing and its resultant effects. These effects will constitute the new Aquarian culture and civilization. And in the process, the hierarchy is taking a definite and influential part and is working more uniquely and specifically than ever before in the history of the world, under instruction and vital aid from Shambhala. So all these problems with the Jews at the moment, or that has been happening since the beginning of the 20th century, it's preparatory to a greater change as humanity becomes the world initiate, as we all, or most, the bulk of humanity takes its first initiation, and this is one of the tests of the first initiation. It's the transference of energy from solar plexus into the heart center. So this is what's happening on a much, much wider scale. So it's the transmutation of the solar plexus forces and being transmuted to the heart. So when humanity will have solved correctly the Jewish problem, when it has been resolved in a humanitarian and sound manner, then the energy of the planetary solar plexus center will have been raised to the heart, and a great transmutation will take place. The solar plexus, if you remember, is the clearing house for energies. So as the mass of men are still Atlantean or emotional in consciousness, being swayed mainly by their emotional natures, these crises arise today. Eventually and metaphysically speaking, the solar plexus center begins to have a radiatory effect in response to the magnetic core of the heart center. And when the first initiation is taken, the first great interplay is set up between the two, that is the heart and the solar plexus. And the first coordinated activity is established. So at the first initiation, and increasingly at all initiations, energy is brought into a major conflict with the forces. Soul energy sweeps into the etheric body, and all the centers become fighting areas, with one center being emphasized more than the others. So if the Jewish people are the planetary solar plexus, then we can see how, as humanity takes its first initiation as a whole, then that transmutation to the heart center occurs. That is, we love one another. We respect one another. These are the heart qualities, not selfish solar plexus tendencies of me, me, me. So it's selfishness versus selflessness. Understanding, toleration, and acceptance of others. So the first initiation is closely related to the planetary center, which is humanity itself, being the third planetary center. It will produce, when over, an increased stimulation of the intellect as it expresses as ordered activity upon the physical plane. It is closely related to the third ray of active intelligence. Hundreds of thousands of people in every land have taken or are preparing to take this first initiation, called the birth at Bethlehem, the house of bread. And humanity, the world disciple, is now ready for this. Ready for the transmutation of the interplay between solar plexus and the heart. It is interesting to note that prior to the first initiation, the personalities of all aspirants to this great expansion of consciousness, that is initiation, first initiation, will be found upon the third ray, which is, like the solar plexus, a great clearinghouse for energies and a great transmutation, a great transmuting station, if you can use this term. So ray 3 is a great clearinghouse for energies, because if you remember, ray 3 is the synthesis of the 4 lower rays: ray 4, ray 5, ray 6, and ray 7. And the great experience upon the various mountain tops, as related in the Bible, have all to do with Capricorn. Moses, the lawgiver on Mount Sinai, is Saturn in Capricorn, imposing the law of karma upon the people. So a clue to the significance of the Jewish people as a karmic clearinghouse can be found here. So if that problem then can be solved, friends, then a great leap of progress will occur on Earth. So let's ponder on those words: karmic clearinghouse. And so next time then we will take up this point, the Jews and the law of karma, and therefore what will be the solution to this planetary problem, which will be a huge leap for our planetary logos if we can resolve that problem humanely, with understanding, and with love. Thank you, friends.